Hello, friends, and welcome back to Scaling Stories. Today, I've got some more highly upvoted posts from Best of Redditor updates for you all. Like always, I'll be reading you the posts and giving you my opinions, and I'll also be working on building up my Minecraft world at the same time, so I hope you enjoy. Also, I'm currently only in Spotify's creator program, so watching on there would help me out a ton. Thank you so much for your support. Today's story comes from the Relationship Advice subreddit. It was posted by ThrowRA Product on May 24th, 2026, and was titled, My 39 male, wife, 38 female, has become fixated on her dead husband since getting pregnant with our first baby. How do I bring this up without hurting her? My wife and I have been together for almost 4 years and married for a year. She's 16 weeks pregnant with our first baby. Since becoming pregnant, she seems to have become sort of fixated on her deceased first husband, and I don't know how to talk about this with her without hurting her or making it sound like I'm jealous of a dead guy. Her first husband died in a motorcycle accident in late 2020. He was only 34. They had been trying for a baby at the time. She wasn't looking for a relationship when we started dating. She lived around the corner from my parents and walked her dog every morning and every night. My parents became friendly with her and decided that they should play matchmaker after I made a comment about thinking she was really cute when I was over at their house one day and saw her walking her dog. She was really open with me about everything that had happened with her first husband. I understood that it was a huge part of her life and never expected her to erase that part of her history or pretend like he never existed. He has come up occasionally, but not constantly. It seemed normal to me. Something has changed since she got pregnant. At least, I think it's only been happening since then. I've noticed her frequently looking at old pictures of him on her phone, looking him up online, and just sitting there looking at the street view of the house they used to share. She's bringing him up a lot more often, just making a lot of offhanded comments about things they did together. This week, she asked if we could use his name for our baby's middle name. We are probably not going to find out if it's a boy or girl until they're born, but his name was unisex, so it could go either way. She said she knows not to ask for the first name, like she'd really prefer to ask for that but knows that'd be going too far. I told her I'd have to think about it, but inside, my initial reaction was absolutely not. I genuinely feel terrible for this guy. He honestly sounds like somebody I'd like to hang out with. What happened to him is unfair. I guess I should be happy because I'm alive. I have a wife I love. We're starting a family, and this poor guy isn't going to have any of that. So, is it really a big deal if I let her use his name? It's just weird and sort of hurtful for me, though. This should be a happy time for us, but for some reason, she's being pulled back into all her memories of him. I want to bring it up to her. I don't think she realizes I've seen what she's been looking at on her phone every day. I've not been snooping. When she's sitting so that I can see her phone when she's using it, it's hard to miss what she's looking at. She's been extremely emotional for the past 4 months, so I'm worried that bringing this up won't go over well, and I don't want to upset her. I also don't want to come across as an insecure jerk who is jealous of a dead man. How can I bring all of this up with her in the most sensitive way possible, while also not just giving in to this whole name thing just because I feel bad? Scaling Stories Corner. I'm honestly at a loss in this situation in what I would do if I was OP. I do think that it's hurtful for him to constantly watch his wife reminisce about what could have been with her late ex-husband. But I feel like if I were to approach her and tell her I feel uncomfortable with the way she's been acting, I feel like that's also a tactical nuke on the relationship. Because obviously she still has fond feelings and memories of her late husband. They're not together because he had a tragic motorcycle accident. That's super different from like if they had a breakup or a separation. But I don't think it's fair to OP just the way he's like being treated or how he's feeling, even though he went into this relationship knowing the history between his wife and her late husband. So I guess with that in mind, I guess the only way forward would probably just to be honest with her. Because if I was him, I don't think I would be able to stew on these feelings forever and just let things develop like naturally and hope things get better. I think that would drive me insane. So I would try to approach it very gently and try to bring up my feelings when we're chilling somewhere sometime, like maybe on the couch or something. And also make sure that I'm there for her while she's grieving over her late ex, because she most definitely is, not if. I can't even begin to imagine like the emotions she's going through But I guess being there with her while she's going through it would kind of make me feel better in a way. At least I think that would make me feel more at ease. Like if I'm able to open up about how I'm feeling while also comforting her at the same time, and then maybe we can also go to like a grief counselor or a therapist or someone who specializes in this type of situation together to help talk and process things. I feel like that would make me feel a lot better. And also for the middle name thing, I honestly, I don't think I would mind just the middle name if that was my child. It's not his first or last name, and I think it's somewhat respectable to honor the late husband in this way because he was a big part of the wife's history, and if he was still alive, then she would probably be undoubtedly still married to him, and they would have been like picking out names for their own kids. You know what I mean? Now, here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, I'm sorry you're going through this. I do not say this to imply your relationship is on the rocks, but rather because it's quite likely to help. You need couples therapy, and she may need grief therapy. There's a good chance your wife wrote off ever being able to have a baby when her first husband died. And then, when she got pregnant with you, she felt like she did the thing she tried to do for him as well. Dating after loss is different because you aren't, or at least shouldn't be, expected to stop loving the one you lost. It can be a difficult thing for the new person, and I don't think she's trying to make you uncomfortable, but this is an incredibly emotional time in both your lives. OP says, yeah, I don't think she's trying to make me uncomfortable either. When we were dating, it was acknowledged by both of us that neither of us had done this before. She hadn't dated anyone else after he died, and I've never dated anyone whose previous partner had died. After a while, maybe I just felt like we had navigated it, and it's not really something that I ever think about now. Commenter 2 says, grief is different for everyone. Maybe getting pregnant triggered thoughts of the ex and the baby they'll never have now that he's gone. She could have hormones making her extra emotional too. I would be supportive and patient and allow some time for her to process what could be, what might have been, thoughts. Maybe gently ask if she might want to talk to someone neutral to help her with this. OP says, I agree with you. I understand why it might have triggered something, but at the same time, I guess there's a part of me that's wondering if she's really wishing she was doing all of this with him. I don't feel insecure about her previous relationship, but it doesn't make me feel great when I find myself wondering, if she had to pick, would she pick him? That's how her staring at her pictures of him every day is making me feel. OP says to another commenter, I don't want to admit that it doesn't necessarily feel great to see my wife staring at pictures of another man who she was in love with. Is it my favorite thing to think about? No. I'm also able to understand the greater context and realize it's not the same as her just looking at pictures of random dudes and wishing to be with them instead. He's dead, and he died in a horrible, unexpected way that I know she relives over and over again because she's told me. I would never want to try and stop her from looking at pictures of him or remembering him, and I know that she wouldn't be interested in me if I started acting like an insecure, jealous person over it. I've really tried not to compete with him or try to be anyone different from who I am. It makes me feel like when we were at the beginning of our relationship, when I definitely underestimated what I was taking on but wanted to give it a shot anyway. It was tempting to feel this illogical competition. I remember the first time she showed me a picture of him, and even I had to admit he was a really good-looking guy. It was like, really? I felt pretty good about myself, but then it was like, what are this guy's flaws? She only ever speaks about him in a positive light, but she admitted to me that as soon as he died, it's like anything they ever disagreed about and anything he ever did that annoyed or upset her just vanished. She knows he wasn't perfect, but she remembers him as perfect. I think I quickly realized that the only way I was going to succeed here was to just show up as myself, and I wanted her to want me for me, not to be a stand-in. OP says to another commenter, I'm not acting on those feelings or holding anything against her. I'm not upset at her about it. I don't doubt that she loves me. I'm worried about her. And yeah, I want us to be happy together right now. I don't want her grief overshadowing this whole experience for us, and maybe that's selfish. I won't try to tell her how to feel or tell her she can't be sad. I think sometimes you can't really help how you feel, but it just depends on how you act on it. If I tried to make her stop bringing him up or stop looking at him, then that'd be another issue. OP says to another commenter, they were together for 8 years, but had known each other since they were kids. She told me she waited 10 years for him to finally notice her in the way she wanted him to notice her, so he was like her childhood crush. I can't compete with that. It doesn't matter whether he was alive or not. We just have a different history. OP says to another commenter, no, she won't go to any sort of therapy. OP says to another commenter, she didn't get any professional help. She's very resistant to it. I've never tried to push her to do it, and on the outside, she seemed to be handling it okay. I've let her know that it's okay to go to therapy and just try to get rid of some sort of stigma she seems to feel about it. I think that comes from her family. Her parents didn't intervene to find her a new relationship. It was my parents who did, but they didn't know what had happened to her. After he died, she ended up selling their house because it was too sad for her to be there alone, and she couldn't afford the mortgage all on her own. She bought a smaller house on her own, and that house happened to be around the corner from my parents' house. She walked her dog twice a day, every day, and she'd pass my parents' house each time. My parents are retired and the type of people who want to strike up a conversation with everyone, so they became friendly with her, and she'd usually stop and talk to them for a few minutes on her walks if they were outside. I made it no secret to them that I thought she and her little dog were really cute, so my parents decided to get involved and set us up to have us talk to each other one day. She didn't tell them about what had brought her to live there, and if they'd known that, they probably wouldn't have decided to get involved. She said she wasn't looking to date anyone, and I didn't force her to get involved with me. It went extremely slowly in the beginning because we had to go at her pace, and I respected that. I don't regret not removing myself from the situation, but maybe it was way too soon for her, and I should have just not pursued anything. Update 2 days later. I'm posting a quick update post because I'm continuing to get new comments and advice on my original post, but the conversation I was seeking advice for has already sort of come to a head with my wife. I appreciate the comments and the advice that were given, and I think they helped me prepare for what came next yesterday evening. We originally had several parties to go to on Memorial Day, but yesterday morning, she told me she didn't feel up to going. I realized it was probably the best segue I was going to get for asking her about what's going on. So I asked her what was wrong, what was going on, and to please talk to me. She said nothing was wrong, and she just didn't want to go anywhere. She didn't want to get dressed, and she wanted to stay home in bed all day. She switched the topic to her bump and how excited she is that it suddenly popped out, and she really looks pregnant now. It looked flat forever, and she's been anxiously waiting for there to be something there, and it really seems like overnight, it's become very obvious, and she can't get over it. I don't like calling it a bump, but what else is there to call it? I don't know. Bump sounds gross to me, and not like a word an adult man should be saying. Anyway, she said she just wanted it to be us that day, and she wanted to cuddle in bed and have sex all day. That's literally what she said. So much for me getting her to talk about how she's been feeling. She does that when she's uncomfortable with a topic somebody's brought up. She switches topics to something happy and cheerful. But she genuinely seemed happy, and it was sort of a hard offer to turn down, so I decided not to push her because I know her well enough to know it won't work. Later in the afternoon, she decided to get up and take a shower. When she got out, she told me she didn't want me to be mad, but she really felt like she wanted to go over to her former husband's parents' house to tell them about the baby. She felt like she should tell them in person and like it was just something she needed to do. We hadn't talked about him or the name or anything that day, but obviously this has been on her mind, and maybe she was feeling guilt about how his family might feel. I've met his parents. They're super cool. Well, his dad's a little scary and threatened to kill me if I hurt her, but you can tell they genuinely love her and she's part of that family. I asked her if she wanted me to come with her. I wasn't trying to force myself into the situation, but wanted to offer, just in case she wanted my support. I didn't feel like I needed to be there. She said she just wanted to go alone, and I was fine with that. She was gone for several hours. When she came home, her face and eyes were all red and puffy, and as soon as she walked in the door, she hugged me and just started sobbing and apologizing and saying she was so sorry. This isn't fair to me. She doesn't want to hurt me, but she misses him so badly right now, and she can't stop thinking about him and doesn't know why. I told her I know, that I noticed, and it's okay. I can't pretend to fully understand it because I'm not her, and I've never been in her position. I felt like she wanted to talk but didn't want to say too much to me because she didn't want to hurt me. I asked her if she wanted to talk about what happened at his parents' house. She said both of his parents were so happy for her/us. They both cried. She cried about how much she missed him, and they were saying really nice things about me. She says she just had to feel close to him, and she can't imagine how horrible that is for me to hear. She gave most of his stuff to his parents once we moved in together. I didn't make her give away his belongings. She held on to everything after he died, literally anything and everything, and it would have been awkward living amongst all his things. I mean, she still had his 3 motorcycles, including the one he died on, sitting in her garage at the time. So, I'm not just talking about some little mementos or clothes. She said she was ready to release those things at the time. She gave the motorcycles to his parents because they had the room to store them, and his dad rides, so they wouldn't just waste away. That was something special between him and his dad, so she knew they'd be taken care of. She told me she asked to see his bikes when she was over at his parents' house because that was like his second greatest love, and they were custom made and everything. She started sobbing all over again, telling me they got rid of the one he died on. She wishes they would have told her. It was too hard for them to see it every day, and it wasn't operable, so they kept the other 2 but got rid of that one. She just sat sobbing, saying it wasn't fair that they didn't tell her and that she wanted it. She doesn't ride motorcycles, by the way. But she was already online trying to track it down and talking about buying it back. It feels a little unhealthy to me here. His parents live in the same little neighborhood where the house they owned together was. So, she says she drove by there, and then she drove to where he died, which was only 5 minutes away from their house. I generally don't try to impose on her grief or tell her how she should handle things. Honestly, it's been a long time since I've seen her cry like this over it, and rarely have I ever felt like what she's saying or doing is at a level of concern. But this time, I really felt like she was just torturing herself, and it didn't really seem healthy. Literally searching online to see if she could find his bike, revisiting where he died. I don't know because I admit I've never lost anyone remotely that close to me before. The whole time she's crying about this, she's saying she's a horrible wife, and she understands if I want to leave her, and she doesn't know why this is happening. All she can think about is his death. I told her maybe she should try thinking about positive things, even going somewhere that has some sort of positive connotation rather than where he died. I'm not leaving her over this, and I feel so bad that she's seriously worried I'd leave her because of this when she's pregnant with my kid, of all times. I'm a little too committed now to back out. I accepted this, and I was aware of it and accepted it multiple times as our relationship progressed. There were multiple points when I could have backed out, and I let her know all this. But I was also honest and let her know that I also hope that we can get through this so we can enjoy this experience together, and that if there's anything I can do, to please let me help her. Not get over it, but get through it and be able to be happy. At this point, what more can I do? I think I just need to continue to focus on the positive things that we're doing together and hope that she'll engage in those things with me and that her grief doesn't swallow her up. I've made her aware that I'm here if she wants to talk. I doubt that makes her feel any less guilty for whatever thoughts she's having, but how else can I show her that I mean it? I think this may just be something we need to ride out. I'm scared I'll push her away if I start trying to demand she go to grief counseling. It'd probably be good for her, but I know her and how she reacts to that type of stuff. I don't think I'll bring up the name thing anytime soon, but I'm going to try to find it in myself to let her use the name if it'll really mean that much to her. I won't promise it right now, but I realize maybe I am being selfish with that one. At least it's not a name that I hate. ScalingStories Corner. This is absolutely above Reddit's pay grade, for sure. I think she definitely needs grief counseling, or to just talk to someone about it that's not OP. I mean, she's bottled it in for so long, and she looks like to me like she's spiraling hella hard. And yeah, it probably broke her heart to know that the motorcycle her husband used to ride was sold, and she feels like they should have told her. I mean, maybe they should have, but that was also their son at the time that he was her husband. It probably destroyed them every time they had to look at it. And like, maybe they should have talked to her about it, but maybe they assumed she would have been the same as them. Or maybe they assumed they didn't want to do that to OP. Like they would tell OP's wife, and then what? They moved the motorcycle to wherever they're living now so they can be reminded of that event daily. I commend OP for being so understanding and caring towards his wife's situation, but I really do think he should try to get his wife to talk to someone about what she's been going through. Maybe even get other family members or friends to help convince her. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, I know people say it a lot, but this is where therapy could really help. OP says, I know, but she's really resistant to it. I don't think trying to force her would do any good right now and would only stress her out more. Commenter 2 says, you are going to get to a point where it's therapy or your new family, and ignoring it sucks. Getting it now prevents her from robbing herself of the experience she's having now, the baby she's having now, and who she's having it with. OP, downvoted, says, there have been other times when she's had a hard time dealing with what happened, and she got through it. It's never been this bad, as far as I'm aware. OP says to another commenter, we don't live in the house they shared. I don't think I'd ever want to do that. She had already sold a house when I met her. She couldn't afford the mortgage on her own. She bought a smaller house near where my parents live, which is how we met. We lived separately, and then, when we got engaged, I ended up moving out of my place and into her house so we could fix it up together to sell. We bought a new house together. It's all in the same city, but we're in a different area than where she lived with her first husband. It's about a 20-minute drive away, so she doesn't have to pass the spot where he died on a regular basis or anything. We're both from here, and we looked at other towns nearby, but we prefer the city we're from. Commenter 3 says, damn dude, I am proud to share a gender with a class act like you. Take care of yourself. But I will now be pumping the brakes on actively being more okay with dating and marrying a widow versus doesn't even matter. But I never imagined a situation could blossom like yours, and my heart goes out to you. OP says, the thing is, it hasn't been like this for our entire relationship. He's come up, and certain things have been sort of triggering for her, but usually, she tells me, and it's not at this level. The topic of our wedding and wedding day was difficult for her, but she didn't have this huge breakdown. She was upfront that, as much as she was excited for us to get married, part of her felt weird getting married again because her first marriage didn't end in a traditional way. She was honest that she didn't know if she wanted this huge wedding, but she understood if I wanted something bigger because it was my wedding too. I understood, and I didn't really care about having this lavish thing. I just wanted our friends and family there, and for everyone to have fun, not this big spectacle. We planned it just how we wanted it, and so many people told us it was the most fun wedding they've been to. We worked through those things that were difficult for her, and we both compromised. It's not like her history isn't there, but it's just never been like this before. Second update, 1.5 weeks later. I'm not really sure where else to post this that's allowed or makes sense. Not sure anyone will even see it here, but since I'm getting a ton of messages, I just want to put it out there that my wife's doing somewhat better. I've noticed a gradual improvement in her mood and everything since Memorial Day, which is when she went over to her former in-laws' house and had a meltdown when she got home. She's also said she's feeling better and she thinks she just had to get it off her chest by telling them and having a good cry about everything she'd been holding in. I've not seen her crying since then, and she hasn't been mentioning her former husband quite as much. The fixation seems to be coming less and less each day. She didn't suddenly stop thinking about him, and I wouldn't be stupid enough to assume everything would just magically get better overnight. She hasn't really talked about needing to find his crashed motorcycle since the day after Memorial Day, when she was trying to find it online. It wasn't currently operable, but it stood up and wasn't in pieces or anything. It was mostly intact and just needed some repairs. Somebody hit him, and he was thrown off the bike for a big distance. He suffered a lot more damage than the bike did. I'm not sure who would want to buy a bike somebody was killed on, though. I also want to clarify that she hasn't been neglecting our own families over his family. We had already announced the pregnancy to our families weeks before she told his family. She also hasn't been doom and gloom about everything the entire pregnancy. She was really excited when she first found out, when she took a test at home. She was really scared it might take a long time to get pregnant, but it happened within the first month of us trying. She and her former husband had been trying for 3 months, and nothing happened, but she wasn't talking about that or crying over it when we found out she was pregnant. We also have first names picked out, and she was very intentional about saying she didn't want to use the names that she had picked out with him, and she wanted the first names to be special names we picked out together. We also have plans for the nursery, like paint color and things picked out that she's excited about. So, I know that all of that doesn't mean that she still might not be struggling with some things emotionally. I know it doesn't mean that she's immune to postpartum depression. It's just that she's not functioning. She's not only focusing on him or experiencing sadness and crying all the time. Even her focus on him didn't seem to be veering towards unhealthy until Memorial Day weekend. I hate to say it, but prior to that weekend, I was just more annoyed by her constant focus on him and the middle name thing than I was truly concerned for her mental health. It was more concerning after that weekend, but I think maybe it was just a bump in the road, which I've seen her have before to somewhat lesser degrees. I did casually mention talking to somebody, a professional more qualified than me. She said something like, "Do you just not want me to tell you anything then?" Then she went on about how she's fine and she wants to be able to feel sad sometimes without being told she should get help. Scaling Stories Corner. Well, I think she should be able to talk to both OP and a professional. Of course, you should feel like you're able to talk to your significant other in a relationship about your emotions and how you feel, but her circumstances and actions were just so extreme, like massive, super, super, very serious, extreme. And these kinds of conversations are extremely hard to have without someone who has had a lot of experience with them, I think. But it does seem like OP was able to broach the topic of his wife obsessing over her late husband, and he says she seems to be improving. So I'm not sure if we'll get another update after this one. Maybe after the baby is born, like way, way down the line, maybe? I do think that maybe getting pregnant, she felt immense guilt about the life she could have shared with her late husband. And so she really did need to let it all out at her late husband's place. And then getting their acceptance and feedback about the pregnancy, she was able to finally improve emotionally. And I think if OP ever feels like he can't maintain the level of emotional support with conversations with his wife anymore, then he should definitely try to push her to see a professional. But I think we can all kind of guess about how that conversation might go. Okay, friends, so that concludes today's video. Leave a like and comment down below to let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.